Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome.
We are happy you're here, and we are just as excited for our segment tonight. So we're glad you are joining us on this cold Thursday evening, at least here in Pennsylvania, in the East Coast, because it is quite windy and chilly.
I feel like I keep surprising myself every time I go outside. I'm like, it's still cold out there.
Here we are, still at the beginning of winter.
Well, I know we have a lot of folks who are joining in this evening, so we'll slowly kind of let everybody in. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for tonight's second speaker series of the month of December. We have Muscle Matters, Fueling Strength and Health After Cancer. And if you have not been on any of our UFH Connect events before, our virtual education events are presented through UFH Connect by West, Merck, Lilly, Novartis, and Gilead Sciences, with support from gold sponsors Pfizer, GSK, and Daiichi Sankyo, and our supporting sponsors AbbVie, TerraSera Therapeutics, and Veristem Oncology. So we are so very thankful to our sponsors who can help make all of these UFH Connect education segments happen.
And like Aubrey said, this is our second speaker series of the month. So if you weren't able to catch our first series last week, Aubrey and I talked about feeding the mind, nutrition for cancer-related cognitive decline. That session was recorded and is available in our video library as well, along with all of our other segments. So if there's a topic that you are interested in outside of what we are chatting about tonight, please feel free to hop into uniteforher.org/UFH Connect. And we've got a whole library, a searchable function. So likely the topic is there, but if we are missing something, we're always looking for new ideas on discussions and topics that are important to you. And we'll find the experts and continue to expand that library. Uh,
Absolutely.
yep.
And I also just think it's so great that we're always, expanding on that. And I think tonight we have a really great topic that is going to help to do some expansion for that. If you have not hopped onto an education event before, welcome. My name is Aubrey Red. I'm the culinary nutrition manager here at Unite for Her. And I have my wonderful colleague, Erin Pellegrin. I'm sure you have met her before, but she's our senior director of nutrition and education. Just a couple housekeeping reminders. If you can keep yourself muted throughout the presentation, we are definitely going to have time for some Q&A towards the end. Feel free to pop any questions that you do have into the chat. We'll be using the chat as well to share out some links and things of that nature. And then, like Erin said, for last week, we recorded that. We're recording this presentation as well. So you will be able to see that on the UFH Connect library within about 72 hours or so.
Amazing. And while we are wrapping up the year, this is not the last of our education segments this month. On Monday, December 15th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have an Ask the Expert. So we'll be streaming live to our Facebook page. Sue and I will be joined with Dr. Mark Shaheen and Dr. Maryam Lustberg talking about how government funding shapes tomorrow's clinical trials. Many of you have been following along to what we are learning about the research coming out of SABCS this week. And we know the importance of clinical trials and research in the breast and ovarian, as well as the entire oncology space. So we'll be chatting with Dr. Shaheen and Dr. Lustberg about what is the state and how we can all play a role to support clinical research at large, what we can do individually and in our region. So be sure to join us on Monday. We also encourage you to submit your own questions for Dr. Shaheen and Dr. Lustberg. I'll put that link in the chat. Oh, thanks, Aubrey. So if you have any questions about that topic, feel free to submit them, but you can also engage with us live on Monday. So again, that'll be on our Facebook page, Monday, December 15th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And
And
then we have a lot to look forward to, Aubrey. So
I
why don't
know.
you share a little bit about what's going on in the new year?
I was gonna say, it's crazy that we're thinking about the new year already, but I feel like I'm thinking about this project in like July. So I've been thinking about it for quite some time. But we have Plantuary coming up in January, which is our annual initiative. I think we might be on year 5 at this
I,
point,
I
where
think
we
so.
are helping to get everybody to eat more plants. So, really, that's the goal, right? We know that New Year's resolutions can kind of come through around this time, but our goal as your dietitian team is just to help you get more plant foods into your diet. So, we're going to have 16 new recipes come through during the month of January. Four of them are actually exclusive recipes. So, you can sign up for the Plantuary Pledge. You'll get our weekly newsletter and you'll get those additional special recipes as well too. We have a lot of fun stuff coming your way. We have a sweepstakes as well. So definitely make sure that you sign the Plantuary Pledge. And I know that Erin put that in the chat. So thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Now,
Hopefully
I
we'll get a
won't hold
lot of
us up
signups.
any longer. I want to get started. So, today we have with us Crystal Zuniga, who is an experienced clinician, educator, and scientist, and science communicator. In addition to her current position as assistant professor of instruction in the Department of Nutritional Sciences at University of Texas at Austin, she's a board certified oncology dietitian and owner of the private practice, social media account, and podcast Cancer Nutrition HQ, where she strives to combat misinformation, share the latest research in nutrition and cancer, and translate the science into everyday actions cancer survivors can take to support their health and quality of life with nutrition. So please join me in welcoming our very special guest tonight, Crystal.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. And wow, y'all have so many amazing programs going on. I'm so glad that we got connected and have this opportunity to collaborate. Lots of great programming. And I know that you'll be touching on some of the programs that relate to the topic that we're discussing today. So I thought when we were first discussing what to present about, I said, this is a topic that I feel like I see a lot come up in my sessions with patients because it is not very well discussed in cancer care. And so I really want to advocate for the importance of supporting your muscle and muscle health during and after cancer treatment. So, muscle matters, fueling your strength and health after cancer. So, I'm going to start off today talking about how cancer and its treatment can impact body composition, and then really build the case for why muscle matters, why I want you to shift your perspective from the scale to really building up that muscle and taking care of it, and how to do that. Some nutrition and physical activity strategies to build your muscle, and then some practical tools to get you started. So I like sharing the science, but also getting you thinking about what can you do? Because I don't just like consuming information, we need to act on the information. So today I built in plenty of opportunities for us to do some brainstorming, thinking, having a conversation today. So I really want this to be interactive and that you leave with an actual plan about what you can do to support your muscle. And of course, my disclaimer is this is for informational and educational purposes, not a substitute for meeting with your care team. And I'm happy to answer questions, but just know I can't provide any individualized recommendations. But just starting off with a poll, you can just put this in the chat, writing A, B, C, or D. But since completing treatment, have you noticed any changes in your body composition or strength? Yes, but you might weigh the same, but you feel weaker or different, or do you feel like you've gained weight and feel weaker or different? Things feel about the same, or have you not really paid attention to this? All right, thanks. These are coming in. I'm seeing things all over the map, actually. Very interesting. And someone put an E. Oh, yes, thank you. Lost weight and feel weaker. So I'm actually seeing a little bit of a trend of feeling different, feeling weaker or different, that the body has changed and you have felt a change. And that change can come with or without weight changes. There you go, name scale. So first I want to address this situation. Maybe you're the same weight, but your body feels different. So I had this example of someone standing on the scale here. Scale looks the same, not many fluctuations in weight, but before treatment, you're feeling strong, energetic, and now you feel weak or tired, just don't have the same amount of energy and endurance as you did before treatment, but nothing's changed on the scale. And that's because our scale is not telling us what's going on inside. right? We need to understand what body composition is and what I'm going to spend some more time focusing on today. So this is looking at what are the different components of your body, this image here on the left. The majority of our body is actually made up of water, but then we have our fat mass, and there's a certain amount of fat that is actually essential. We need that body fat. It's needed for protection of our organs, hormone production, but too much body fat can increase inflammation and the risk of disease. Then we have our bones and our organs. And then we have our muscle mass. And this is an active tissue. It burns calories, it supports your metabolic health, it supports your bone health, and it's enabling your movement throughout the day. But there are multiple things that can happen during and after cancer treatment that can impact the quality and the amount of your muscle. And that can be things like inflammation, the systemic chronic inflammation. That can be a result of the cancer itself, treatments, infections that you might have had, or even an episode of fever, or you had to recover from a surgery. Some people have multiple surgeries. What we know is an inflammation, there is an increased amount of protein breakdown. There's actually, with those inflammatory signals, it signals for the muscle to break down so that those building blocks, those amino acids, can be diverted to make different proteins. So unfortunately, the muscle does take a hit during times of inflammation. And that could have been episodes of very severe inflammation, like after a surgery, or it could have just been chronic low grade related to your treatment over several months. Maybe you had unintentional weight loss. And we know when you're not intentionally trying to lose weight and you're not focusing on that high protein intake, we don't get to tell our body, only take from fat. Please don't touch my muscle. Unfortunately, when you're in a calorie deficit, especially when you're not being intentional with protein, muscle is going to be utilized as an energy source. Been more sedentary during cancer treatment because of the fatigue, the side effects, the multiple appointments that you needed to get to, didn't have as much time. Steroids themselves, chronic use of corticosteroids can take a hit to your muscle. And then your diet might have changed as well, although you had the best intents of eating well during treatment. I know that, chicken breast and eggs are not really what people are craving when they're not feeling well. Those comfort foods tend to not be high in protein. So really just want to set the framework here that this isn't your fault and it wasn't one thing, but to understand that there are multiple things that could have contributed to this loss of muscle. And what I have here is an image showing that we know as we age, our muscle mass does decrease. Top image there. We kind of reach peak muscle mass, and our goal is to try to just slow this rate of decline. There is going to be decreases in our muscle mass. But what we don't want, what this red arrow is showing here, is that maybe that hit of cancer treatment happened and we see a drop down to a lower amount of muscle. And now you're on that decline from that lower amount of muscle. So you might be hitting this point of, physical limitations and mobility limitations earlier in your life because of that hit, had a big drop, and now you're on that slope to decrease over age. So we really want to try to recover this and essentially make up for this gap. Because the aftermath of cancer, what we've seen in studies is that there can be loss of muscle mass. The function of that muscle is not as good, so it's not contracting as well. And that results in reduced physical function, some of the fatigue, for example, that you might be experiencing. But maybe you had this issue of higher weight and a different body. So before treatment, feeling strong and energetic, you have gained weight and feeling like you don't recognize your body anymore. And so maybe your focus and major concern right now, or maybe your provider even said that you need to focus on weight loss. And some common beliefs about weight loss is that it'll improve your health. If you just lose some weight, all of these things related to your health, your energy is going to be better. It's going to improve my confidence, my body image. I'll just feel better if I lose weight. But I want you to really think about if that's what you're truly going after. Is the weight the problem, or Because of cancer treatment, have you lost confidence in your body and what it's able to do? Or does this weight represent that your body has let you down, or it makes you feel weak or vulnerable? Or is that weight change a physical reminder of how cancer has changed you? And because I don't want people focusing just on that scale weight. Because what the scale does not tell you is number one, your worth and value. So say that again. Your worth and value is not determined based on that scale weight. But it's also not telling you the water retention that you may have, the strength of your body, the overall health of your body, your metabolic health, your immune function. None of that is represented in that scale. And it's also not telling us your muscle versus your fat, right? It's just a number on the scale. And I like this visual reminder here, 5 pounds of fat versus 5 pounds of muscle. We can see that muscle is much more compact. And I'd like to bring this up with my patients too, is like they might not be seeing changes on the scale, but we might be seeing changes in how their body feels. And that's because of that change in the body composition. So I challenge you to think about weight loss a little bit differently now, because likely what you are looking for is more confidence. You want to feel better in your body. You want to feel stronger. You want to feel less fatigued. You want to reduce the risk of recurrence and other health issues. These are the common themes I see with my patients. This is what they want, but they think weight loss is the only way to get there. And shifting that perspective and really want to shift that focus to improving body composition. Your muscle matters. Your muscle matters more than that scale weight. And why? So let me make the case for muscle. I've told you now that we see hits to muscle in cancer treatment, and that can happen with or without weight changes. And I understand that people often want to lose weight, thinking that's where they're going to get the benefits of feeling better, improved health, and reducing the risk of recurrence. But muscle is what we really want to focus on. Because muscle, one, is our largest organ in the body. They say our skin, but our skin is covering our muscle, right? And muscle is a metabolic organ. It improves insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism, so it can actually reduce the risk of diabetes and metabolic syndrome. Now, you may have hear it all the time, the sugar feeds cancer, right? And I'm not even going to get into that whole big myth there, but I understand that yes, we don't want to have high blood glucose levels. That can increase the risk of diabetes, insulin resistance. You know who likes muscle? Know who likes muscle? Know who likes glucose? I just gave the answer there. More than cancer cells, your muscle. Your muscle, when you eat, your muscle picks up 70 to 90% of the glucose that just came in from the diet. So your muscle is a big glucose hog. So if you have better muscle and you have more muscle, when you eat those carbs, your muscle is going to pick those up and use it for itself as an energy source. So it's really good for metabolic health. Also regulates inflammation. What's really cool is that muscle, when you contract muscle, it actually releases signaling molecules, and some of them have anti-inflammatory effects. So moving that muscle, contracting that muscle results in release of compounds that can actually lower inflammation and even cooler, some anti-cancer activity as well. Also, your muscle, might not think of it this way, but supports immune function. Also seen with muscle contraction that it stimulates the production and mobility of immune cells like your T cells and natural killer cells. Also, your muscle it helps your lymphatic system because your lymph doesn't have those pumps like your blood vessels do. So the muscle contraction around that actually helps with the movement of lymph. So if you're dealing with lymphedema, for example, having good muscle quality can help with that as well. It's also a physical organ. We know more muscle is associated with lower risk of injuries and falls. You'll have more physical independence. helps protect your bone as well, reducing the risk of osteoporosis, which again is another major concern for some of our breast cancer survivors. But also it's a longevity organ. Like the longevity field is definitely booming right now, and it's your longevity is not going to be found in some NAD injection or the supplement of the day. Your longevity can come from taking care of that muscle. And these are some statistics seen in our cancer population that adults with lower muscle mass have significantly higher all-cause mortality compared to those with normal muscle mass. So 57% higher risk of all-cause mortality. Specifically in cancer, a 45 to 75% higher risk of cancer-related mortality in those with low muscle mass. And then we also see that those with lower muscle mass have a lower quality of life, that health-related quality of life with more physical limitations and just overall global functioning. So taking care of your muscle is going to protect your metabolic health, right? Your immune function, has anti-cancer activity, helps reduce inflammation, supports longevity. Have I convinced you yet that muscle is important? Had to really build that case. Okay. But now what? Can't just will ourselves to have more muscle. Would be great. Would be great if we could just have some more muscle. If we tell our body we want more, we want more of this longevity organ. Well, one thing to consider is that rebuilding requires more than time. And I say this because I see a lot of this in the survivorship phase is patients being told, you'll just feel better. Like it'll get better. Just give it some time. We need more than just time. Yes, some things do just naturally improve with time as the body recovers. But if you want to build muscle, you need to have a plan. We can't just build muscle by doing nothing. So a little bit of a science lesson here. Um, Muscle protein, so our muscle, is constantly being broken down and rebuilt throughout the day. That's why we say burns a lot of calories. It's a very metabolically active organ. And it's breaking down into its building blocks, amino acids. Those amino acids can go into the blood if they need to be diverted to other things, if the body needs to make some enzymes or neurotransmitters. Okay, but if that's all good, then these amino acids can actually go back to make the muscle protein. Right? So this is constantly being broken down and rebuilt, kind of like our bones. Our bones get broken down, rebuilt. But muscle building is going to occur when we see more muscle protein synthesis than muscle protein breakdown. That is going to be our goal then. We need to flip the scale here to have more muscle protein synthesis to outweigh the muscle protein breakdown that is happening every day. So I like this little image here of what my muscle building recipe is. Well, it's not my recipe. It is a science-based recipe. I just like to use this analogy of thinking of a builder trying to make a wall here. Okay, so we can think of this wall here being your muscle protein. Resistance training is going to be the plan. It is what stimulates muscle protein synthesis. When you resistance train, it's telling the body, or it's telling the muscle, you need to build. You're going to build this wall. That's the plan. But you also need to have the building blocks. Can't build this wall without the bricks, right? And those building blocks are these amino acids coming from your diet. But this builder needs the energy to be able to build. Building requires work that requires energy. So you need to consume enough energy. So this is what we can use as a recipe to build, but know that there's a bulldozer that can start breaking down that wall. Things like inflammation, um, poor sleep, stress. So we want to reduce this inflammation. We want to prevent this bulldozer to undo all the work that you're doing here. I use lots of analogies in my teaching, so hopefully this helps see how this all fits together here. So I'm going to go through these different pieces of the plan. So first is fueling your muscles, providing the energy to fuel your builder to do the building. And the first thing is that you need to consume enough energy. If you are losing weight too quickly or have this unintentional weight loss, that protein that you're consuming is going to be diverted to be used for energy. Right? Our body is expending energy every day, regardless of if you just like laid on the sofa all day and binge watched Netflix, you still burned a tremendous amount of calories, right? The majority of the energy that we expend in a day, what this image is showing here, is called your resting metabolism. That's just what it takes to be a living, breathing human being. So if you do nothing, you're still expending calories. And I say this because often I hear this from patients like, well, I don't need to eat anything or much. I'm not doing anything. Yes, your body is doing a lot. So you need to support this energy demand. Takes energy to digest and absorb the foods that you're consuming. If you're physically active, that's additional energy that you need to consume. Now, I'm not going to go into this detail now, but if you do want to get an estimate of your energy needs, there are plenty of free calculators out there. You don't have to download apps like MyFitnessPal or Lose It, or they have those in there, but there's plenty of free tools out there where you can try to get an estimate of how much energy should I really be aiming to consume. So we have to fuel our builder first. He needs to have energy to get to work and do the work, and then he's got the bricks to build that wall. So how much protein? Probably number one question I get is how much protein do I need? You might be familiar with what we say is our RDA, which is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. The RDA is based on just preventing a protein deficiency. If you are actively in treatment, in recovery from treatment, or intentionally trying to build muscle, you are going to need more protein than the RDA. And our general guidelines of what to aim for is 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Okay, so I did put this formula in here to see if you would take a couple minutes here to calculate what that would look like for you. Because once you have that number, it's going to help when I give you some examples of how much protein is in different foods. So if we want to do a little bit of math first, maybe bring out your phone, or if you got a calculator nearby, is just take your weight, divide it by 2.2, and that's going to give you your weight in kilograms. Okay. You take that weight in kilograms and you multiply it by 1.2, it's kind of giving you the low range of your protein needs. If you take your body weight in kilograms, multiply it by 1.6, that's our higher range. Again, these are estimates. I'm always going to give this disclaimer here. There are estimates. Your needs might be higher or lower, but I just want you to have a number in mind so you can see what that actually looks like in food. Okay. So thanks for providing that example. So if you weigh 150 pounds, your weight is 68 kilograms, and that would be 82 to 109 grams per day. So I'm just going to do something right in the middle, and we're going to work with the example of 100 grams of protein per day. And we're going to work with that. Again, estimates, it's okay if you're not at that number. I just want you to have this number in mind. It's like, okay, when I know how much I should be aiming for, then it helps put into context, well, how much food should I really be eating and protein-containing foods? So where can you get protein? All of our animal sources are going to have protein. So either it's chicken, turkey, if you include red meat still in your diet, pork, beef, fish, seafood, eggs, dairy. So all of your dairy products, cottage cheese, yogurt, milk. Soy, it's a really good plant source of protein. So your tofu, tempeh, soy milk, edamame. All of our beans and lentils contain protein as well. And we have some in our nuts and seeds. So it's not just animal sources. So if you're vegetarian or vegan, you can still reach your protein goals without eating animal sources. That's a common question I get is like, well, do I need to include meat? It's like, no, if you're vegan or vegetarian, they're doing just fine. Right? They just are being more intentional with including these plant proteins in their diet. For clarification, I'll get to that question in just a little bit. Okay, so although they're all sources of protein, they have different amounts of protein. I like to throw this example a lot because people tell me, oh, well, I have peanut butter on my toast in the morning, so I have some protein. Like, that's about 3 to 4 grams of protein in that tablespoon of peanut butter. It's not a really good source of protein. There's a difference between a food has protein versus it's a good source of protein. So you can see where we're getting the most protein for a smaller serving size are going to be any of your meats or your tofu, soy is going to be a good source as well. Yes, nuts have some, cheese will have some as well, chia seeds, but they're not very high in protein. So just like to show some examples here of what that actually looks like number wise. You can think of, oh, if I need 100 grams of protein, it's going to be really hard if I just have eggs in the morning and maybe a little bit of beans at lunch and dinner, might not be reaching my targets. But this does not require a protein supplement. Okay, this is an example I put here as a sample plan of how you could move the needle towards more protein. So, for example, we've got breakfast, maybe typical standard bagel with some cream cheese, popcorn as a snack, a ham sandwich, dinner, some pasta, broccoli, cheese, and has chocolate chip cookie for dessert. About 1,600 calories, 50 grams of protein. So if this was our example person, we'd be falling below, right? This would only be about half of the target. But some swaps here for breakfast. Instead of a carb-focused breakfast, aiming to have some Greek yogurt with fruit. So now we have fiber as well, help with feeling full. Instead of swapping for just carbs, have those carbs, that crunchy carb, but add a little bit of almond butter. We get a little bit of protein here. Lunch, instead of just some deli meat, have a good serving of chicken breast on there, an egg. You could swap that out for beans if you wanted to as well. So have a salad that has a good amount of protein so that that salad is more satisfying. Have that pasta dinner, but add some protein to that meal. And swapping out that cookie for you can still enjoy that chocolate, but consider a little bit of a plant source of protein to just get that to add up throughout the day. So you can see that this example here, no protein supplements. There are some animal proteins, but there's also plant proteins throughout the day. We actually ended up with more fiber and more protein for about the same amount of calories. So this isn't going to require you eating more calories or cutting out your fiber containing foods or turning into a carnivore diet. These intentional swaps can help you get towards your protein goals. And know where I see the most barriers in people getting enough protein is having them be convenient, right? It does require some prep to cook your protein. So have those options handy. Prep a protein in advance. Keep some convenient options handy like nuts, string cheese, roasted chickpeas. Got this really cool snack thing from a CVS, has some awesome brand of roasted chickpeas and lentils in a little snack pack. That was so cool to have that option available. I don't get paid by CVS. I was just really excited to see that they're using chickpeas and lentils as a snack. Adding protein anywhere you can, it all adds up. Aim to have a high quality protein at every meal. I see this a lot with people trying to cut calories, is that they'll just do leafy green, good salad, but there's not protein in there. There's not anything to really stick with them. And if you're really struggling with fatigue or your appetite's very poor, protein supplements can fill the gap, but you should not take these without discussing with your healthcare provider. We really want a foods first approach when it comes to your protein. Okay. Um, all right, so I'll say some of these questions because some of them are going to be answered as we go along. Okay, so we talked about the building blocks, giving energy. Now let's prevent that bulldozer from coming and undoing your work. Inflammation, stress, an anti-inflammatory dietary pattern. You might have heard this Mediterranean diet, anti-inflammatory. It's really just another term for what we've always been recommending is a plant-forward diet. These plant foods don't just have vitamins and minerals, they have antioxidants in them, things that help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. A diet that is rich in more unsaturated fats, like your olive oil, your avocados, your nuts and seeds. These are things that also help reduce inflammation. Aim for a diet that's limited in highly processed foods. So those added sugars, those added fats, more refined grains, they are a dietary pattern that could increase inflammation in the body. So focusing on plants and the more whole foods, the better, are going to give you your vitamins, your minerals, phytochemicals that function as antioxidants to help lower inflammation and help reduce that bulldozer. I know I'm not just nutrition here, but just going to throw in some other things that can help reduce inflammation, staying physically active, not smoking, limiting your alcohol. Easier said than done, these things of managing stress and prioritizing sleep. But just for you to recognize, because sometimes I see this where patients have the pieces in place. They're exercising, they are eating well, getting their protein, but they haven't managed things like their stress or their sleep or still including some alcohol. And those are things that can kind of offset some of the work that they're doing. So this muscle-friendly plate, and I think like, yes, you maybe calculated some numbers and seems like ridiculous amount and not sure how you're going to get that. Does not mean that you need to start tracking your intake. Just think about how you can balance your plate better. So this is the New American Plate. It's from the American Institute for Cancer Research. It's a guide for a dietary pattern that reduces the risk of cancer and supports cancer survivors. We can also use this as a guide for what supports muscle. A palm-sized portion of high-quality protein at every meal is going to give you about 25 grams of protein, a good chunk of protein. And then the rest being your plants. There's a little bit of protein in some of our plants as well. So aim to have these colorful, nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables. You're going to have antioxidants that help lower inflammation. They're going to give those complex carbs that fuel your workouts and help preserve your energy and support your muscle. So I just really want to make clear here that a diet that's focused on helping support muscle building is not different than what we'd recommend for cancer prevention. It's just being more intentional with including good protein sources at your meals. So, as I've talked about these different things that could help support being intentional with building your muscle, I'd like you to think about what is one nutrition change you could try to commit to this week. If you're seeing that maybe you're not getting enough protein, what is something that you could do? Maybe think about adding protein to breakfast, might prep some proteins on Sunday. I'm going to make sure I don't skip lunch. I keep working through lunch. I'm not going to skip a meal because if I skip lunch, then I'm losing 25 grams of protein opportunity there. Oh, I didn't know edamame was a good protein source. Maybe I'm going to try that this week. Or, oh, I really like beans. Why have not added those? Like, I'm just saying these are things I commonly hear from my patients, like, oh, yeah, I love beans. I could add those. Or, sure, Sundays, I'm just relaxing. I could probably cook some proteins in advance. If you feel like sharing your goal, I'd love to hear it, but it's getting specific. Get very specific, not, yeah, I need to eat more protein. No, this is what I'm going to do to get more protein this week. Then prep. Prep's a bit not skipping meals. Yeah, if you skipped a meal, you skipped an opportunity for protein. Brown rice fits in. That's a complex carbohydrate. That's a plant that's going to help fill the rest of that plate. So it's not just protein, right? We need more than just protein. We need carbs, we need that fiber, we need those healthy fats. So we still need to include those. Higher quality meats, okay. And I know we don't have time to go into this, but it is a myth that you need to avoid soy as a breast cancer survivor. Soy is safe to consume as a whole food. So I do have a podcast episode on that. Just put a plug in for myself if you'd like to listen to me busting that myth. Right. So thanks for sharing. And hopefully, again, writing this down, saying it out loud. This is turning that information into what am I going to try to take action on this week? You don't have to do all these things. You could do something completely off of this list, but here's just some ideas of how you can begin implementing. So I do want to, though, make time for talking about the resistance training piece, because this is a piece I often see missing. Resistance training is part of this recipe. It is part of the plan. The resistance training is that stimulus. It is the instructions to build muscle. And just foundational, just going to throw a little disclaimer in here. If you're getting started with exercise to get that medical clearance, making sure that you start slowly, listening to your body, prioritize consistency. Maybe you were exercising 5 times a week before cancer treatment started. You were mainly sedentary during. You can't just jump back into 5 times a week again, right? You got to meet your body where it's at and gradually build up. So make sure you take your safety precautions with your exercise. Just got to throw that in there. But what are our recommendations for exercise for cancer survivors? We have the aerobic exercise of 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, and that includes your walking, your cycling, your swimming. This is something that's going to improve your cardiovascular health, immune function, improving endurance. We have our flexibility piece, aiming to get some stretching in, balance exercises that helps prevent falls, reduces your risk of injury. But the resistance training piece, 2 to 3 times per week, targeting all of your major muscle groups. And this could include body weight, resistance bands, or weight. And resistance training is what is going to build and support your muscle. This also is a type of exercise that supports bone density and improves strength. Because muscle is going to grow when it is challenged and challenged consistently. Muscle needs resistance to get stronger and it responds to a progressive challenge. So if you're lifting 5 pound weights and you never go higher than 5 pound weights, then the muscle's not going to randomly start being prepared to build enough muscle to support 10-pound weights, right? You have to have a progressive challenge for the muscle to respond. The muscle can't also adapt if the stimulus keeps changing. And what I mean by that is if you are doing different types of workouts, maybe doing yoga and then Pilates and then resistance training one day and then you're running, like if there's not a consistent plan and a consistent stimulus, the muscle is not going to respond to that. Cardio alone, although it's good for aerobic benefits, it does not load the muscles enough to truly build muscle. Not all types of exercise build muscle. And I want to be clear here that I am encouraging people to be active in whatever ways feel good. Something is better than nothing. Your muscles are going to love movement. Your body is going to love movement. But if you really want to build a plan to support building muscle, resistance training needs to be a part of the plan. Doing a daily dog walk, that's great to be physically active. It's good for steps. It'll boost your mood. Your dog will love it. But that's not enough load or progression on the muscle. Maybe you're training for a 5K and you're going to yoga a couple times a week. That's great for balance, but it's very minimal external resistance for muscle building. Or I see this a lot where they're just getting started and are finding some, free YouTube strength videos, and that's great in exploring maybe the types of movement that you like or instructors that you like, but you're not tracking, you're not seeing if you're increasing your weight, you're not doing a consistent stimulus on the muscle, you're not going to get as much of that progression that you need. And I always frame this from the point of if you're going to take the time to exercise, we want to get the most bang for that exercise. But there's a lot of obstacles for strength training. And I just want to hear from you, maybe what's your biggest obstacle to starting or maintaining a strength training routine? Maybe you've tried this and you can do multiple, but I want you to I know there's probably multiple, but I want you to think about one. Like, what is one that's really the hardest for you to get over right now? Is it too fatigued? Or I don't know even where to start. Don't have time in my schedule for this. I don't have access to a gym and I don't have heavy weights at home. Just looking at that, got some injuries. Okay. So, with that in mind, maybe think of your obstacle because we're really good at identifying problems, right? Our brain loves to find the problems everywhere. It's so good, it's so easy at doing that. But know where we have to really be intentional is helping it come up with solutions. And I'd like for you, maybe we'll just start with one strategy that you could try to help overcome this barrier. Maybe you said time is a challenge. You're like, how am I going to find 30 minutes in my day to do strength training? You know how I can overcome that barrier? I'm just going to reduce the time. Say 5 minutes. I'll do some body weight squats. I don't have 30 minutes. I'm not going to find 30 minutes in my schedule, but you could probably find five, right? Or I really don't know where to start. I have this injury. I don't know what's safe. Maybe overcoming that is let me talk to my provider if I can get a referral for a physical therapist. Just get an assessment, understand my body a little bit differently. This is a common one I recommend for my patients. I get it. Your body feels different. You're not sure what movements are safe, what's okay for you to do. Maybe you have lymphedema. Um, get the guidance. You deserve that guidance. Ask for that support. Maybe it's just really lacking in that motivation or scared to go to the gym alone. Could a friend come with you? Could a family member? Someone in a support group that's maybe far away, but you could be accountability buddies for each other. Say, I've even had patients set a goal of, I'm just going to look at what gyms are available and I'm going to ask what their prices are. I'm going to do some tours, see if I liked any of them. That was the goal that we set. It's just look, see what your resources are, what is accessible for you. Hadn't even taken the time to see what the options were. Okay. So I'm curious if anyone wants to share maybe some ideas that they have in doing this. Someone said they'll do something during a commercial break. Oh, I've started with a plank a day. Awesome. Keeping it simple. Like I don't have 30 minutes, but I could start my day with maybe doing a plank for a minute and seeing how I can build up my strength. Up to 10 days. Congratulations. Nice job. Said I saw some people share some of their struggles, but ooh, I like this air squats while you're brewing your morning coffee. Great. Oh, I love that. I have a Facebook friend and we do at least one thing a day. Great. That virtual accountability still counts too. Okay. Yeah, a stationary bike would be a place to start with cardio. And does put a little bit of resistance on your legs, but over time you'd like to build up to potentially including things like your body weight, resistance bands, um, as well. But I just want you thinking about, because it's so easy to say, I can't do this. I don't feel good about this. I don't know how to do it. Our brain loves it. It's dreaming up, telling you all the ways you can't be successful. So we've got to shift that framework and say, well, what can I do? Where can I start? And start building up that confidence and momentum to support that behavior change. Okay. We got to build that muscle mindset. We got to consume adequate calories, give those building blocks, incorporate the resistance training. That's our formula. That's our recipe. But we have to put those recommendations into an action plan. We can think about muscle, but unfortunately, just thinking about muscle doesn't build muscle. We've got to do the work, and it can be hard work. I get it. I totally get it. And maybe right now, this is not a priority, the resistance training. Maybe mental health is still something you're really struggling with. Anxiety, depression, it's hard to get that motivation to exercise. Maybe I need to prioritize this so that I can get to the point of resistance training. I have not figured out a way to meal prep consistently, eat 3 meals a day. That's my priority because I can't start folding in this resistance training if I haven't figured out how to fuel myself well. anymore. So I've given you the recipe, but I don't want you to think that this is the only things that you can work on. If you can't do it, then you're out of luck. Like sometimes these things need to take that priority so that when you are ready for that resistance training, when you are ready to start tackling your protein, you're going to be more successful. So I would like for you to think about what is really a priority for me to work on right now with my health. And like I said, it is okay if it's not protein intake. It's okay if it's not resistance training. Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's getting a better handle on your mental health. Maybe you're not drinking enough water throughout the day and you're feeling so fatigued. What can you prioritize? Sure, there's lots of things that we'd like to work on. I'd love to work on my sleep and less screen time and reducing my caffeine intake. I could list a lot of things that I'd like to improve, but I need to focus on one thing at a time. Our brains work better when we're focusing on one thing at a time so we can prioritize and then get smart. You prioritize what you want to do, but we can't just say, I should eat more protein. I should probably move more. I should get some more fruits and vegetables. We are going to do it when we set the plan and get intentional with what specifically are you going to do. Never let my patients leave a session without us identifying what are you going to do so we can check up on this. Resistance training was a priority and you said that, injury or you're still in recovery, that's a barrier for you. I'm going to contact my doctor to ask for a PT referral by next week. Or I'm going to just look at some at-home resistance training programs on Sunday. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes, see what apps, programs are out there, and I'll just do a little bit of research. I'm going to see if anyone in my support group might want to be my accountability partner, and I'm going to have someone set by the start of the new year. Protein, some of you said prep might be something you'd work on. So this Sunday, I'm going to prep one protein-rich food. I'm going to get some chicken breast cooked up. Or maybe I'm going to track my intake and see how am I doing? Or this week, I'm going to get one high protein snack. Add one high protein snack at every meal. I think I was trying to combine two goals. That one's not a good one, but just some examples about how we can get smart. And smart is it's specific, it's measurable, realistic, time bound. I actually forgot what the A was. Achievable. That we need to have these really specific goals. So I believe in you. You can rebuild your strength one rep at a time. Cancer and treatment can change body composition, but it's not like you're on that downward slope. You have the opportunity to build muscle. We've seen in research people building muscle during treatment. So it is not all odds against you. It's possible. And muscle is your longevity organ for strength, for energy, for metabolic health. And building muscle is going to require that plan, nutrition and exercise, and being intentional with that plan. And your small steps can create real progress over time. So you don't have to do everything all at once. Building muscle takes work and it takes months and it takes years. So we have to start somewhere and you can build from there. Um, some ways that we can stay connected. This is a program that I plan on relaunching again in the new year. It's a group coaching and support program called Muscle Mindset. So staying in contact with me through either Instagram or my podcast or my website. So you can be the first to know when this program is open for enrollment. And I know that United for Her has lots of resources that they're going to share with us today too. If those are some resources that can help you as you try to build your muscle. So with that, I'm happy to look at some questions, take some questions. And I don't know if Unite for Her wanted to share any of the resources. You said that there are some tools.
Yeah, we'll put some resources in the chat. We have Stronger Through Cancer that is part of our passport program. But I think it's always good to know what's out there in terms of, especially virtual platforms. We're seeing a lot of people that are doing virtual PT, the virtual concept that you gave it with accountability. I love just having that accessible to us, no matter where you are across the country, because it just, I think, really helps to better set us up for success. So I love that.
Ooh, the Stronger Through Cancer, right? She put that website in there. Also, if you look at the chat, she put a link for a blog that they've done on the soy myth too. I know that that question came up. I'm just kind of
And I know
looking.
you cover a lot of these topics, Crystal, on your podcast as well. So, and we speak to so many members that are podcast listeners, and that's something that you enjoy if you're in the car or going to appointments. So, I've listened to several as well. So be sure to check those out also.
Thank you. Thanks for putting that in there. Um, and Billy, are y'all gonna have like an exercise session or I mean a speaker talk about?
Exercise.
Yes.
Maybe coming up. We usually do. It's part of
Okay.
our ongoing, yeah. And we've done several talks on varying subjects relative to exercise, for pain management, cancer-related fatigue, supporting bone health, all of which are available in our video library as well. So you can always jump into those to see the plethora of benefits that come from moving our body and finding a way that works for each of us individually.
Okay, great. So that's another great resource to direct you to because I'm getting some questions like, does this count? What would this do? And I think you have a lot of resources that could help answer some of those questions,
Yeah.
right?
I think one thing that came up, Crystal, if you want to address is, for those of us that may have been doing those calculations and numbers seem unachievable, right?
Hmm.
Or if, and Aubrey, I'm sure you've connected with our members as well, that we give that range, we do a little math together, and we come to the realization that like we are way off scale from where we need to be. And that feels like a deterrent from the get-go. What do you usually, how do you share with your patients about not letting that, deter them from trying to meet their protein goals, or where can they start?
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't want it to be a deterrent. I was a little conflicted, like, do I include that? But I always get the question, how much? I'm like, well, it
Yeah,
depends, right? It's an individual thing. It's like, I just wanted that to be a framework of, hey, this is what I really should be trying to aim towards. And what I'm doing right now is pretty far off. So, do I do nothing and just be okay with being 100 grams off? Or do I think of how can I add 10 grams this week? Let me get this 10 grams implement. Like I've done work with my patients of one snack. Let's start with having a snack because you're going long times without eating. Let's have a snack. Let's get 10 grams of protein in that snack and let's do that every day. Okay. How does
I
that feel?
love that.
Did you like
Yeah,
that snack? Was it good? You're tired of that snack? All right, let's talk about some other options. Like, but then there we go. We got 10 grams in consistently. All right, what can we add here? Let's increase this portion size of your protein at dinner. Boom, we got an extra 10 grams there. So we have this kind of bigger goal, right? Like maybe you have a bigger goal as far as how much muscle you want to have, right? Let's break that down. Let's break that down into smaller pieces, starting there and doing it consistently. And then we can build from there. So, yes, I hope you can kind of take that message away. Is just what is one thing, maybe where I can add 5 grams, 10 grams. That's a good place to start.
I love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
And one other question from Lisa that I thought was good because sometimes we can get caught up in varying terms, especially if this is a space that someone is not used to working in, I should say. So things like strength training versus resistance training, is that the same thing? Does that include different exercises? Can you clarify that?
Sure. So strength training, resistance training are used interchangeably, but people think that, strength training is only lifting weights. No, it's just putting load on the muscle. So actually, if someone's pretty deconditioned and hasn't been active, yoga and Pilates may actually be like that's body weight included in there. That might actually be enough load initially to be considered strength training for them. But then after a while, we're going to need to increase the load if you're trying to build muscle beyond that, and going to need to increase the load on that muscle. So strength training can include either body weight, using resistance bands, using weights, using machines, is putting the load on the muscle. So yes, sometimes these things like yoga and Pilates, I gave an example there. Even sometimes walking can be a little bit of a load, but then if you want to progress and build more, you're going to need to increase the load. I use the example like if all you do is lift a pencil, then your muscle's only like, well, we only need to have enough muscle to lift a pencil. It's not going to build more muscle just because you're eating more protein. You do have to put that load and tell it with that plan, right? Like, oh, actually, no, I need you to be able to lift a brick or to lift a 20-pound grocery bag. That's what I need you to be able to do. And so we do have to increase that load.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, that takes us to our time. I know we have some questions just about comparing protein sources and some guidance. Aubrey popped in the chat. We have a wonderful nutrition hub that has a lot of nutrient guides, food guides that are quick references that are available to the public, not just to our Unite for Her community. So you can always go into our nutrition hub and find those quick reference handouts that are available. Share with your workout buddy, share with your accountability partner. And it's, if there's something that you don't see in our library, you can always let us know. We're constantly building that out, but great, easy to use accompaniments to go along with Crystal's talk today. So thank you so much for your time. That was wildly informative. We're seeing so much positivity. I think this is
Good.
really great motivation and some good tangible thoughts to start setting some successful goals for our members. So we appreciate you taking the time to present this evening.
Awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for everyone for being open for this message. I want you to be strong survivors. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for sharing all the amazing resources that you have too. I love to direct my patients to these resources now too. So thank you.
Absolutely. We'll pass them along. Thank you, Crystal.
All right. I'll take care.
You
Thank
too.
Bye.
you.
Amazing. So much goodness. I feel like we're all really motivated, Aubrey,
Absolutely.
to get started right away. This is great.
Awesome. Build those muscles. All right. All right. Thank you so much for the invitation. Y'all take care.
Of
Thank you. You
course.
too.
Bye.
Thanks, Crystal. And thanks everybody too for hopping on today. And of course, a reminder, this is not the last education event that we have this month. We are jamming them in before the holidays. So Monday, December 15th at 5:30 Eastern Time via Facebook, we have How Government Funding Shapes Tomorrow's Clinical Trials with Dr. Shaheen and Dr. Lustberg. So make sure you submit your questions for that. We will certainly, I imagine, have a lot of good questions. And you can view this and other recordings on our UFH Connect library after today. We so look forward to seeing you next week, but also I hope that you get a lot of information off of some of the recordings we have on our Connect library as well.
And then don't forget about Plantuary. So while we're talking about muscle, and we've got one more Ask the Experts, we are excitingly anticipating January to help our Unite for Her community eat more plants. So be sure to sign that Plantuary pledge. Stay tuned for plenty of recipes, plenty of plant proteins to fuel your muscles into the new year. And we are so glad that you joined us this evening. So we'll give one final thanks to our education sponsors. We are so grateful for their ongoing support. So tonight's speaker series was presented by West, Merck, Lilly, Novartis, and Gilead Sciences, with additional support from our gold sponsors, Pfizer, GSK, Daiichi Sankyo. And we have additional support from AbbVie, Tercera Therapeutics, and Veristem Oncology. So we are so grateful for their ongoing support of our UFH Connect Education Library. So thank you so much for joining us this evening and engaging with Crystal in our discussion. Hopefully this was a good jumping off point to take us through the holiday and into the new year. And like Aubrey said, it will be recorded and in our video library likely within the next 72 hours. So be sure to come back, re-listen, share with others, and hopefully we will see you at a future education segment, if not on Monday. And with that, everyone have a wonderful night.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.